Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Insider's Talk. I'm Gayatri, a GC at VPod and your host for today. We have an extraordinary guest today, someone I've admired for a long time. Joining us is Mainak Roy, an engineer by education, a teacher at heart, and a social entrepreneur by profession. Mainak is the CEO and founder of Simple Education Foundation, also known as SEF, an organization working towards empowering 1 million teachers by 2028 so students in government schools can thrive just like any other school. Now that our listeners know a little bit about SEF and your mission, let's kick things off with a quick rapid fire round. Just say the first word that comes to mind when I say your role model,
My grandmother.
leadership,
uh, Walking together.
pause, courage,
Meditate. uh, Doing the work that we do.
alternative career path.
Barista.
Awesome. Now let's dive into a bit more detailed conversation. Manik, let's start with your journey.
Yeah.
What led you to join the development sector? Was it a single defining moment or a series of experiences that you encountered?
Yeah. It was definitely not a single defining moment. Although I think as I look back, there are several moments which are uh, extremely powerful. And, you can say that that was the moment. But right out of college, after completing my engineering, I decided to join the Teach for India Fellowship. When I joined the fellowship, the idea was, to use these 2 years to build a profile to get through a university abroad with maybe scholarships and things like that and study, and then do something post that. I think during the course of the fellowship, a lot of things happened. Just my experience with the children I was teaching, my experience with other educators, what I learned through the fellowship, the different experiences that we've had during the time I was a fellow, all of that sort of, you know, uh, pushed me to rethink my decision to, go out and study and do other things. And yeah, then that's when I think I decided that I'm going to do this uh, for the foreseeable future.
It's very inspiring to hear and should definitely serve as an inspiration for those wanting to enter the social sector. So here's a question I think many are curious about. Do you fit the stereotypical image of a social worker, the jhola carrying, fab India kurta wearing person? What's life really like in the social sector?
Yeah, I do love my Fab India kurtas for sure. Uh, but I think, yeah, I think uh, we have to sort of go a couple of steps back to really understand, how the social sector has changed over the last, 20, 30 years, and why the image that we have that of the kurta wearing, jhola carrying uh, person, how it's different or how it's moving towards a different path. I think as India sort of got its independence and started building this whole movement of developing the country, a lot of work was needed on the ground. So you needed to be on the ground much more. And at that point of time, the ground was just all your rural villages, small, super small towns. Cities were not the way they look today. So you needed to have that, agility in the comfort and agility in what you're wearing, what you're carrying, and things like that. And you had to often carry a lot of things because social workers, when they went into the village, they would see, children. Suffering from diarrhea, so they would have maybe a packet of ORS in their bag. They knew that children would, like mothers would need something, uh, farmers would need something. So often they had things, although they might be on a different mission altogether, but they have had all of that, and which is why, the Jhola really worked. And, there's a comeback of the Jhola. The Gen Z is all about tote bags. So that's nothing but like a Jhola that did their MBA. So, So yeah, I think, but today where we are, the focus has moved from access to quality. So we've definitely ensured that India's done well on access. So more children have access to education, more women and people in the rural areas have access to financial instruments. Although it can be better, but they have. And hence now the work is on quality, which means that you need sharper, you need a very different kind of people to come in and do this work, right? And you're working in different environments. So now that has changed, I think, based on your work, you can be that the stereotype that I think everyone carries, but you can also be uh, wearing the same thing that maybe a management consultant wears to work. Yeah, and because that's the kind of work we are doing, and sometimes, uh, and I actually not sometimes, I always feel that some of the problems that we are solving are extremely important problems, right? And it needs the best minds in the country to sort of participate and help solve this.
That's really good to hear, especially how you blend simplicity with, working at such a high level, a high profile role at the grassroots level in a very important sector at that. What inspired you to start SEF? What was the core problem you wanted to solve when you began?
Yeah. Uh, So when we started, and this is about 11 years, 12 years ago, when we were deciding or when we were thinking of starting something up, at that point of time, the first thing that we did was we actually went out and looked for similar organizations because starting something up wasn't really, the plan. Uh, but doing the work was always the plan. So I come from a family of teachers. My grandmother's a teacher, my mother's a teacher, all my aunts are teachers. So I wanted to work with teachers more closely, build an ecosystem of, support around them. Um, but when I went out, I did not find a lot of organizations were working with teachers with the rigor that I wanted to work with. And the ones who were doing that or were close to that, they often lacked faith in the teachers, right? So they believe that these teachers who are in government schools will not get better or will not improve, and they were still working with them. So I knew that that is not a place I wanted to be, and which then led to, okay, if nothing else is out there, I need to start something on my own. And fortunately, I had people around me who felt similarly, so we could sort of come together and start SAF.
I think in this day and age, collaboration is key, and what you've done throughout your journey is quite remarkable. And viewers, let us know what are your views on collaboration, because I feel like in today's day and age, it's very important, especially in a very important sector such as the social sector. The saying "it takes a village to raise a child" holds a lot of truth. How is SCF building that village for the children and communities that you work with?
Yeah. So I think first of all, if you look at SCF as a child, then I think it's taken a lot of people to build SCF also wherever we are today, and it will continue to take more people. So I think just the communities that I've been part of, Teach for India, Acumen, Wipro, all of them have been extremely supportive in building SCF, and the team members that I've had, the team members that I work with today, their families have also been an extremely important part of building SCF. Um, and if we look at our work, then with our children, our core idea is that, for our children, there are three main sort of actors who build that village for them. One is the teacher, one is the parent, and one is the principal. So in all our work, we try to ensure that we are doing something where we are able to uh, work with each of these uh, people, each of these stakeholders, right? Each of these sort of enablers, as we call them, of the child's life. And obviously, if we can, one of our core goals is to create a classroom where a child experiences, social and emotional safety. And once that happens, they also have a peer group, which is um, supportive, which is encouraging, which sort of allows them to, you know, be themselves and things like that. So that's the way we create, the village around the child. Um our hope is that we will be able to ensure that every child in India has access to a ecosystem like that, where their key enablers around them, their parents, the teachers, and the principals are, uh, skilled, loving, intuitive, and they support the child in his, her, or their journey towards whatever they want to be. So yeah.
It's very inspiring to hear, giving aspirational values to children at such a young age. I noticed on your website that SCF creates impact across multiple streams. How do you manage to address so many areas simultaneously?
Yeah. So I think in the work that we do, unfortunately, everything is very, very closely linked, right? And often, uh, it is challenging to, or often it's unrealistic to expect the partner we are working with or the stakeholder we are working with to, solve for the other problems, right? So, uh, if I give you an example, like you might have the freshest of produce, but if you don't have the right spices, or the right vessel to cook, uh, then that does not matter, right? But in what happens is generally someone who's producing the vegetables and all of that, they don't focus on, okay, let me ensure that the person who's buying my vegetables has the best pan or the best sort of karhai. uh, that's something someone else's job, but in our work we have to make sure that every single detail that is related to the child's life, that is related to the teacher's life, we take care of that. Because if we don't know that someone will, like the surety with which a farmer can say, oh, there is someone who's making the best kadhai or the best pan, and they will reach my customer as well. I can't say that for my teachers or for my children because I don't know if someone else is building that. So, which then means that I have to build that for them because they absolutely need it, right? So yeah, I think that is why we have all of this, and we have a diverse team. We have a team where we have designers, we have people who are amazing facilitators, people who are great at implementing things on the ground, people who are great with data, with tech, with communication, and all of that. So when you look at the team that way, it does not look like one person doing all the work, and the diversity sort of isn't as unfathomable as it is when you see that the team has that diversity, that experience, that expertise. So yeah, so I think that is how we do it, but the focus also is on really mapping out the system really well. That can Are we able to, as an organization, see all the different nodes in the system that impact the child's life, that impact the teacher's life, and can we do something at each node? Because in a social in the development work, causality is not something that you can take for granted, right? There's nothing that is causal. Everything has to be built for. Uh, and hence, I think, the diversity in the kind of work that we do. Yeah.
I think it's pretty admirable how SCF has been able to put, cross-functional teams with diverse skill sets, and they're able to streamline the entire process. So it's
Yeah.
very admirable. One thing I find unique about SCF is your commitment to hyperlocal solutions, whether
Yeah.
it's with teachers, governments, or C projects. Why not take a standardized approach like many organizations do?
Yeah. Uh, because like the short answer is that it will not work, right? Um, Again, if I can go back to a food example, if you look at the country, every state has a different sort of cuisine, has different foods that they're famous for. And we actually love that right? Imagine the whole country just eating chola bhaturas, right? It would be so boring. And the reason that is not the case is because, every state has its own geographical features, has its own cultural features, which sort of then blend into the kind of food that they eat. So similarly, every state's context has to be taken in mind when you work with the children, especially because a lot of the children we work with have carry intergenerational trauma of class, caste, religion, gender, and all of that. And each of this is different for each state, right? Like if you are in Punjab, people carry the trauma of partition, versus if you are probably somewhere in southern India, people carry the challenges of, Brahmanical patriarchy. So things are different everywhere. So you need to ensure that when you're creating the solution for the area that you are working, you have to contextualize it. And which is why hyperlocal is the way. Obviously, from management lens, or from like just any kind of even investment lens, it makes more sense to have like a one size fits all product. But unfortunately, that is not the case with education or with the work that we do, especially if we want to do the work well, right? So yeah, so we want, so that's the reason.
It's very interesting to hear. SCF is known for prioritizing employee well-being, and I've heard great things from people within your organization about its culture. What do you think SCF is doing right in that regard?
I think we're just listening to the people
Mhm.
we work with. We are a team. One of the things that I think I deeply value is that everyone in the leadership team, we sort of we ensure that we remember, because all of us have worked before, right? We've worked in different roles before outside SEF. So we do try to ensure that we don't forget that time that we've spent in different roles outside SEF. So when we are building SEF, we are very intentional about ensuring that the challenges that we faced when we were maybe managers in a different organization or associates in a different organizations, we want to make sure that that is not the experience that our team members are facing. And uh, one of my personal motivation behind building SCF is also building an organization where everyone loves to come to work, right? Where people are not only motivated by the mission, but are also motivated by, you know, the work that we do. So if you look at people as a sort of a customer for SEF, the people who work at SEF as SEF's customers, then the moat that we are creating is the culture. Because in the development sector, there are so many organizations doing similar work. So what sort of defines, what is the differentiation, and what will keep people who are working at SEF stay at SEF, continue working at SEF, and not move to the other new shiny new product that comes in the market, right? So our moat is the culture, and hence um, we really double down on that, and we spend a lot of time ensuring that we are able to build that culture.
It's very interesting and inspiring to hear that you build this culture and ecosystem of well-being for your employees. As a social entrepreneur, what are the biggest challenges you face?
I think I think there are multiple challenges that we face as social entrepreneurs, and I think one of the key challenges just the society's understanding of the work that we do, right? Like you said, like you started with that question of, uh, the stereotypical social worker. So I think as we are evolving, as the country is evolving, the needs of the social work or development work is evolving, right? And hence we need to get uh, better people need to get people with a very different skill set than what we needed maybe 30 years, 40 years ago, right? And for us to attract people with that kind of skill set, we need to attract people from, the IIMs, the IITs, and all the big colleges, and people, some of the sharpest minds in the world, right? Uh, but the society, I think, still looks at us as that group of people who just go around doing some work. And hence, it's not looked at as a viable career option for a lot of people, right? Or even if you choose to do that, you have to have this big battle in the family or with your parents and with your partner and everyone to take this leap of faith. Uh, so I think that's one big challenge that we face, right? How do we ensure that the world at large is able to view our work differently and view our work for what it is? Uh, I think that's one, which sort of is closely linked to the second piece, which is that of resources. So although philanthropy is huge, and if you look at the amount of money that uh, India donates, right? Uh, on an annual basis, it is massive, but very little comes to the development sector. Most of it is goes to religious temples, mosques, churches, gurudwaras, and all of that. Very little trickles down to the development sector. So resources or funds are always a big challenge in the work that we do. So even if we have an idea, कैसे ये करना है, or we want to do this, often funding is or the resources to do that is a big um, you know challenge. Getting those resources is a big challenge. So yeah, that those are, I think, two challenges that I can definitely think of right of the top of my head.
It's very inspiring to hear, and I hope that the viewers can take away from this, the challenges that you face while entering the social sector, but at the same time, the rewards that you can benefit in the sense that you feel good that you're doing a good service to society. Finally, what would be your top two pieces of advice for anyone aspiring to become a social entrepreneur?
I think my first advice would be that whatever uh, field you want to go in, be it education, health, agri, or whatever, uh, be the last mile uh, or the final beneficiary for some time. So if you want to go into agri, do some farming for a couple of years. If you want to go into health, work at a PHC. If you want to go into education, be a teacher, work as a teacher for a couple of years. That will really help you understand the customer better, right? Your stakeholder better, which is what a lot of people, in the for-profit world really understands. A couple of days ago, Dipinder Goyal went delivering food and it became viral, right? Uh, but I do not see a lot of people who are moving from the for-profit world to the social sector doing the same. They still want to not go into the field and have all the knowledge of what needs to be corrected on the field, right? So I think that's what I'm going to say is spend time on the field, on the ground, uh, learn that before trying to become an entrepreneur. Because when you do that, uh, like I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I think spending time as a teacher led me to understand, something needs to be solved. So you need to really work at that level to understand the problem that you can solve or you are passionate about solving. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I would say is uh, find a group of people who will be with you, who will be your champion, your tribe, because entrepreneurship as it is very lonely. So just ensuring that you have that group around you, that tribe around you is going to be very helpful. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's very inspiring to hear. And I definitely hope that our viewers can take away from this podcast as much as they can. And thank you so much, Manik, for your time with us
Thank you
at
so
Vivo.
much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And if you have any questions for me, or if you would like the viewers to know anything else, you could um, please
Yeah.
feel free.
No, I think I'd love for the viewers to definitely go online, look up our work. We'll be running a crowdfunding campaign later this year, starting 1st of November. So if you can donate, share the campaign within your circles. And if you're interested in the work that we do, let me know. Happy to talk to you, figure out if there's a role that you can come in and help us with.
Thank you so much, Manik. It was a pleasure
Thank you.
talking to you, and I hope you have a great day ahead.
Thank you. Same to you. Bye bye.